Hey friends, how's it going and welcome back to another video. So today's video is a little bit different. I haven't done an art video in a while, but I'm doing a thrift store makeover. We're turning this old toolbox made by Jack. So Jack, if you're watching this, I hope you don't mind, I have your toolbox. But we're going to be painting some Nightmare Before Christmas themed paintings on here. We're starting off with some gesso. This is just gesso I found at Spotlight. I recommend doing this if you're painting on wood, just because it really soaks in and it makes the wood so much easier to paint on. I did wait 24 hours for it to dry before I painted on it, which is what it says to do on the bottle, but it dries super quickly, so yeah, I don't know if you have to wait 24 hours, I just did just in case. Realistically, if I had longer to spend on this project, I probably would have done 2 coats of gesso, just because my acrylic paint did really sort of like absorb into the wood still. So yeah, I definitely would have done 2 coats, but I'm basically covering the whole outside of the toolbox. I'm not going to be using it as a toolbox. I just style it on my shelves at the moment. I'm thinking of maybe using it as a bird feeder, which is why I don't paint anything on the inside of the toolbox, just because I don't want birds to chip away at the paint or anything. So yeah, I'm just covering the outside, making sure to cover things like the nails and screws and all that sort of stuff so the paint really adheres to it. So starting off on this side, I'm doing this picture of Jack and Sally on top of the mountain. I needed a big enough round surface to trace for the moon in the background. So I did use my paint water container, and then I realized that I literally have the same container that's empty full of my paintbrushes that doesn't have water in it. So I could have just used that, but I obviously didn't think of that. This mountain was so hard to draw. You can watch me struggle, but getting this swirl, I don't know what it is with me and swirls, but I just cannot draw them. And so I struggled for a hot minute. It was so difficult. It wasn't too difficult to paint. It was a little bit fiddly, so you definitely need some smaller paintbrushes. But yeah, I really love this scene of Jack and Sally. I actually watched Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time the other day, so I don't know, I was missing out on so much. It's such a good movie. It's a little bit creepy and scary at some points, but now I'm just absolutely obsessed with it. So I'm starting off painting the background black because I wanted black to be the main color of my toolbox. I'm using this black paint here. I don't know what brand this is. I got this out of a like paint your own rock DIY set, and I really want to like email the company and ask what brand paint they use, because this paint was such amazing quality, and it's just apparently it's just a normal acrylic paint, but you'll see later the ones I get from Spotlight, I get them because they're $3 each, and I just think I don't want to pay too much for paint, but they're so thin and watery, and compared to this paint they're just really bad quality, so I definitely want to find more of this sort of paint. So I'm also painting the edges, and I also paint the handle, just because, again, the main color of my box is going to be black. So now we're painting the moon in the background. I'm using this sort of pale yellow color, and these are the paints I'm talking about from Spotlight. They're just very thin, very watery. They're not really opaque, so I had to do like 5 or 6 layers of this. It was really annoying, but they have a lot of range of colors, and again, they're cheap, so yeah. So now I'm mixing up a color to do the mountain. I wanted like a dark blue, but I didn't have any dark blue, so I had a tiny bit of purple left, and I ended up putting way too much black in it, so you'll see me empty the rest of my purple into that black, and I ended up with like a dark grey, but for some reason when it went onto the wood it was like a perfect dark blue, so Yeah, it was kind of a fluke. I don't really know how I did that, but I'm really happy with the color in the end. And it does look pretty dodgy on this first coat, but when I do a couple more coats, it looks way better. So now we're on to one of the difficult parts, which was sketching Jack and Sally. They weren't too difficult. I was having a good drawing day, but on a bad drawing day, I just wouldn't have been able to do this. I also decided to add Zero in there because I just think he's so cute and a very underrated character. So I then used a fine liner to trace over the characters. I do end up regretting this because when I seal it you'll see at the end, but it actually smudges it, which isn't great. So I recommend doing this with paint or using like a spray sealer rather than the Mod Podge that I use. Yeah, I tried painting over the fine liner with a black paint, but I just didn't hit all of the spots that the fine liner was on and it caused it to smudge. On this side, I'm doing Oogie Boogie. I found this picture on Pinterest that I took inspo from, and he was actually really fun to draw and surprisingly really easy. And then since he's a bigger character, I needed a bigger circular object, so I emptied out all my beauty blenders that clearly need a wash, and I ended up tracing around that container. I'm painting him in black just because I think he looks cool in black, and the background is also going to be black, so I needed a way to separate him from the background, and you'll see in a couple of minutes, I end up using a Posca pen and outlining him, and I just think it adds so much to it. So now, once again, we're painting the moon. I'm just using the same yellow that I used on the other side to really tie it in and make it match. So now I'm just coming in with this green Posca pen, and I do one layer and then I paint the background, and I had to get a little messy with it because it's hard to paint so close to the Posca pen without painting over it. So I do come back and do a couple more layers of the Posca pen after I do the background. So now it's finally time to seal it all in. I use a matte Mod Podge. That's just my preferred sealer choice. I do also have a spray sealer, which I wish I used over the Jack and Sally part and then maybe used Mod Podge. Also, yes, I'm munching on carrot sticks, which is kind of on theme, like the orange and everything. But yeah, I personally love Mod Podge. I use it to seal in my paintings and everything, and it just makes the surface look so much better. It makes the paint not feel as like chalky, and it just protects it so well. And this is the final outcome. I just have it styled on my shelves in my YouTube background at the moment. I'm not sure if it's going to stay here. You can kind of see how it's smudged a little bit on Jack and Sally, but I think it still looks good. And this is my personal favorite side. There is a thumbprint like right there, and I'm so annoyed I didn't clean that off. But it will be clean, don't worry. But I just love Oogie Boogie. I think it looks so cool. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all next week with another video. Bye!
Yeah, you know that I only roll with real ones. Not the type to front or make me feel dumb. Cause I got aspirations, baby, real ones. So you know I can only roll with real ones.